Hi everybody, Bob Sears again, driving home from the gym in my Camaro, which is finally working again, right? So, I was thinking, we've talked a lot about personal development. I want to get a little bit into sales. Lately, I've been working with a lot of clients who have a fear of sales, and I ask you that question. I mean, how many people really love sales? I mean, raise your hand. No, you're not here, obviously, but think about that. And a lot of times people don't want to raise their hand when I actually ask that in an audience because, frankly, deep down, there's a fear factor. There's, we don't want to be pushy. There's a whole mess of negative connotations when it comes to sales. And I want to break those patterns today. I think I've said it before where I wasn't very good at sales when I first started. I get into sales years ago. I wasn't a straight A student, I was a good C+ C student. Actually, when I went to college, I actually did well, but in high school, I just never felt motivated. I was always tired. I was in all sports and stuff and never really took studying seriously until I started really enjoying what I was studying and went into aviation and studied my butt off. And weird correlation between studying and grades is that you get better grades when you study. Go figure. Anyway, so when I started in business and sales, the only jobs you could really get was in, a sales capacity. And unfortunately, I don't think 90% of the times we get trained in anything when it comes to business. That's a whole nother, topic of conversation at some point. But so I went in and, people just go, here, sell this stuff. And they wouldn't give you leads. You had to go get leads. You had to figure it out. It was always really challenging for me. And I felt like the pushy guy, right? Like I didn't have any skill set. And the first thing I want to tell everybody is that sales is a skill. It literally is a skill. So it's not like you can't learn it. It's like anything else. It's a skill. The other thing is that because of that fear factor, that mindset, remember this goes back to mindset again, we have a challenge of selling stuff because we don't want to be pushy or sell something to someone who doesn't need, want, or desire it. Need, want, or desire. So after getting trained, right, working with Tony and Chet, I realized something, and it literally clicked. It almost clicked in one aspect. And before I get into how it clicked, I want you to explain something because most people don't understand this. And Chet taught me this, is that really to be a good salesperson, you need two things, okay? The first thing you need to have is ego, but I don't mean you're better than anybody else, like not that type of ego, just ego enough in yourself to realize that when someone says no to you, it shouldn't devastate you, okay? You understand and realize that they're saying no to the product, the opportunity, whatever you're selling at that moment in time. It's not about you. They're not denying you. So your ego's strong enough to sort of handle that. The second aspect is you need empathy. And I used to get sales just through empathizing with the client because I really could understand them clearly of their needs, wants, and desires. So if there was a tie-in to the product, I probably, was able to sell them in that capacity. Here's the thing. What I realized is when it came to actually closing the person and really trying to get them to buy, I didn't want to get rejected, right? That fear of rejection challenged me. So the ego was challenged. So what happened was I didn't sell the way I should. And here's where the clue came in. Here's where working with Tony and Chet totally changed that frame of reference. And I want to change it for you. And I've sort of cultivated this into what I call moral obligation selling. And we were told to sell people in their best interest. And that's what I want you to understand. When it comes to sales, when it comes to really you're helping someone bridge the gap of making an informed decision in their own best interest. And what I mean by that is this. You literally, if you have a product or service you're selling, the likelihood that someone's engaging you is because they have a challenge, a problem, a need, a want, a desire to have that product or service. So what happens, and the way I explain it to people, if you sell something and you thoroughly believe in it, and you have someone in front of you who has that challenge, this is going to leave them in a better place, right? You really understand that. then the dynamic is that you need to sell them in their own best interest. So if they come to you and they go, price is a challenge, well, I can appreciate price is a challenge, but the fact is you told me you had X problem and this is going to solve that problem. So if money's just the object, would you pay for it if money wasn't an object? Well, yeah. Okay, great. Then it's just a money challenge. Let's figure that out. Sometimes I made more money by postponing an agreement for like 5 days. I mean, realistically, just 5 days just to have them get the money together. Sometimes they're just getting paid then and they couldn't do it at that moment in time, but 5 days from now, they're going to be fine. But what I really want you to get over is the fear. And there's also something called call reluctance. And call reluctance is, a lot of times salespeople don't want to like engage somebody. They don't want to pick up the phone. They don't want to make that call. And it can be challenging because obviously, the reality is you're going to get a lot of no's before you get a yes, because you need two things for a sale. You need someone who's interested and qualified. Interested and qualified. What do I mean by that? They got to be interested up front. Like if there's no need, want, desire, there's no, challenge, pain, hurt, desire, want, then they're really not, a client, right? They're not someone you should be prospecting. And that's where a lot of times engaging people when we do cold calling is obviously you don't know if they need the product or service. So you're going to get a lot of no's, and that's where the ego gets hurt, and that's where we get challenged, right? So I'd always suggest trying to set up a funnel or trying to set up something that's actually going to engage people in a better way, so that at least you're dealing with people what we call leaning forward. They're leaning forward to the help. They're leaning forward to the product or service you're offering, right? The others, so they have to obviously need it, right? And they have to be qualified. Well, what is qualified? The qualified portion is they literally, sometimes they can't afford it, right? Or there's just a challenge with that. And a lot of times, we'll engage people that we know, doctors get hit on a lot for products and services because people think, well, they have the money. Just because they have the money, again, may not mean just because they're qualified doesn't mean that they're going to need, want, or desire that product. So you really want to, balance that out. The more you can actually talk to people who are interested and qualified, right? Guess what happens to your closing ratio? It goes through the roof, because at least you're talking to people who are leaning forward, right? Interested, and they're somewhat qualified, right? I really believe, and when I talk about moral obligation selling, and it's your moral obligation to help those people make an informed decision in their own best interest to get them through what is really a threshold of pain for them. And the threshold of pain is like, yeah, maybe I know I need this, but it's a stretch for me to get it. A lot of times this happens in coaching programs where someone really needs what you're delivering, and they're like, geez, it's $5,000, and that's a huge investment for me. But that $5,000 for a return on investment could be hundreds of thousands of dollars. And you've got to be able to explain that to them. You need to be able to help them say, look, this is the solution. This is what's going to bridge that gap of where you are now to really where you want to go. And then when you do those things, it really changes the game. So, this is just the start of getting into the sales process. There's so many more things to talk about. I did bring up call reluctance just quickly and we'll get deeper into this, but I had a mentor one time, and, he said, if you're scared to pick up the phone, right, if you're really challenged with that, he goes, what I want you to do is take a picture of your family, and I want you to look at them and say, hey, listen, family, I love you, but the person I was about to call, who actually I don't know and really, may say yes or no to me, means more to me than you do. And it seems kind of harsh, but it puts it in perspective, folks. When you're engaging people, especially initially, you don't know them and they don't care about you. So the fact is, if they say no to you, they're not rejecting you, they're rejecting the product or service, the timing, the whatever they have in their head as an excuse or reason not to talk to you. But that has nothing to do. But what happens if you call and they say yes, and now you can actually engage them, and you end up closing them, and it puts money in your pocket, and it helps with your putting food on the table, right? So he used to say, when you have those challenges, right, and you don't actually physically engage, your people, in your phone calls because you're scared of what they're going to say, don't do that. Because that ends up meaning that they mean more to you than you do for the family. Because if you go through that process, your likelihood is you're going to find people that are interested and qualified, and you're going to actually make a sale. Because there is, strategically, numbers game does come into play. Or tactically, strategically, you do things the right way, you're going to get better results. So, all right, that's it for today. Listen, like, share, comment, do whatever you need to do. Pass this along. Love to hear some comments, and I hope you have a great day. And remember, you're only one decision away from really making the life of your dreams. So decide, right? Make some decisions and take some action. Talk to you soon.